Panera Bread was under a cyber attack, leaving their front door unlocked for 8 months. We are going to break down exactly how this happened, the technical vulnerability involved, and why this matters for every developer and security professional watching. Welcome back to Decode the Hacks. In this video, we will be dissecting a massive security failure that left 37 million customer records wide open on the internet. So let's get started. A security researcher, Dylan Houlihan, was doing what security researchers do, poking around websites, testing APIs, looking for security issues. And he found something absolutely shocking. At Panera Bread's website, their customer API was returning full customer records without any authentication whatsoever. No API key, no login, no password, nothing at all. Just a simple HTTP request to their customer endpoint and boom, full access to customer data. He immediately reported this to Panera through their security contact. This should have been the end of story. A responsible researcher finds a bug, reports it, and company fixes it quickly. But that's not what happened here. Let's talk about the sheer magnitude of this failure. We are not talking about hundreds or thousands of records. We are talking about up to 37 million customer accounts, all exposed. And this wasn't a brief exposure window. This vulnerability sat there publicly accessible for at least 8 months. Anyone who knew the URL structure could access any customer's personal information just by changing a number in the web address. No special tools required. No hacking skills needed, just basic knowledge of how URLs work. So what exactly was left wide open for those 8 months? This wasn't just metadata or harmless information. We are talking about comprehensive, personally identifiable information, full names, email addresses, physical addresses, birth dates, the last 4 digits of credit card numbers, and Panera's loyalty account numbers with reward information. This is a complete identity theft toolkit. Everything a malicious actor would need to build detailed profiles for targeted attacks, credential stuffing attacks, or social engineering campaigns. This is the kind of data that sells on the dark web marketplaces. It is critical to understand that this incident was not a hack in the traditional sense. Nobody exploited complex vulnerability chain. Nobody used sophisticated malware. The data was just sitting there, publicly accessible to anyone who knew where to look. This was a fundamental security architecture failure. There was no authentication layer, no authorization checks, no access control. The API endpoint was essentially public, treating every request as if it came from an authorized user. This is security 101 stuff, and it was completely absent. This section breaks down the anatomy of an insecure direct object reference or IDOR vulnerability. This is one of the OWASP top 10 web application security risks, and it's exactly what happened here. Here's how it works. When you request data from an API, you typically specify what you want using some kind of identifier. In Panera's case, it was a customer ID number in the URL. In a properly secured system, the API would check, is the person making this request authorized to see customer data? But Panera's API skipped this step entirely. It just took whatever customer ID you put in the URL and returned that customer data. So you could literally just increment the number and pull any customer's information. The request went straight to the database, grabbed the data, and sent it back. The timeline of this incident is where the real failure lies. Dylan discovers the vulnerability and reports it to Panera. He follows up multiple times over the next several months. Nothing happens. The vulnerability remains live. Customer data continues to be exposed every single day. Finally, 8 months after the initial report, Dylan goes public with the disclosure. The security community and tech media pick up the story. Suddenly, Panera responds. Within hours of the public disclosure, they take the vulnerable endpoint offline. They issue a statement claiming they only learnt about it recently, which directly contradicts the researchers' documented timeline of repeated notifications. This is a a textbook case of how not to handle responsible disclosures. The researcher did everything right. He reported privately, gave them time to fix it, followed up multiple times, but it took public embarrassment to get action done. Now you must be thinking, surely they must have needed some sophisticated hacking tools or techniques to exploit this, right? Wrong. Let me show you exactly how simple this was. Step 1. Visit the Panera Bread website like any normal customer. Step 2. If you knew the API endpoint structure, you could manually change the customer ID number in the URL. Just simply type a different number. Step 3. Hit enter. Instant access to that customer's complete account information. That's it. No SQL injection, no cross-site scripting, no buffer overflows. Just changing a number in a URL. This is why this incident is so shocking to security professionals. We are not talking about a sophisticated attack that required advanced knowledge. We are talking about one of the most basic vulnerabilities in web application security, which was left unpatched for 8 months in a major restaurant chain's customer-facing system. But let's pause for a second and talk about the real victims here. This isn't just about API endpoints and vulnerability classifications. We are talking about 37 million real people who had their personal information exposed. Their email addresses could be used in targeted phishing campaigns. Their names and addresses could be sold to data brokers or used for identity theft. Their partial credit card numbers combined with other exposed data could facilitate frauds. This is the human cost of security failures. Real people, real consequences, real risks that will follow them for years. Now let's talk about some security measures. Here are 5 critical rules that could have prevented this entire incident. Number 1, implement authentication. Every API endpoint that returns user data must verify the identity of the requester. Use API keys, OAuth tokens, JWT tokens, whatever makes sense for your architecture, but verify who is making that request. Number 2, enforce authorization. Authentication tells who the user is. Authorization tells what they are allowed to do. Just because someone is logged in doesn't mean they should see everyone else's data. Check permission for every request. Number 3, never trust client input. That customer ID in the URL, that's user-controlled input. You need to validate it, sanitize it, verify that the authenticated user is authorized to access that specific resource. Number 4, test security regularly. Manual code reviews, automated security scanning, penetration testing. Make security testing part of your development pipeline. IDOR vulnerabilities are incredibly common and easily detectable with proper testing. And number 5, monitor access patterns. Implement logging and monitoring. If someone is sequentially requesting thousands of customer IDs, that should trigger alerts. Anomaly detection can catch exploitation attempts even if vulnerability slips through. This brings us to the bigger picture. Panera incident has happened, but we still see IDOR vulnerabilities and similar basic security flaws in major applications today. Why? Because teams skip the fundamentals. They focus on advanced threat detection, sophisticated monitoring systems, and cutting-edge security tools while forgetting to implement basic authentication and authorization checks. The fundamentals matter: authentication, authorization, input validation, security testing, and rapid response to vulnerability reports. These aren't optional nice-to-haves. They are the foundation. Panera's failure wasn't a lack of advanced security tools. It was a failure to implement security 101. And that's the lesson. Master the basics before moving to advanced techniques. Test your APIs. Respond to security researchers. Make security a core part of your development process and not an afterthought, because the next major breach might not be from a sophisticated attack. It might just be an unlocked door that nobody bothered to check. Thanks for watching Decode the Hacks. If you learned something today, hit that like button and subscribe for more technical security breakdowns. Thank you.